So we have switched Patrick Mahomes and Sam Darnold. They are both now on opposite teams. Patty Mahomes, of course, at a 99 overall. His next highest player is tied at 85 with C.J. Mosley and Marcus Ware. He is not going to have a lot of guys to throw to. Jamison Crowder at an 82. After that, they are all 75 or below. Going to the other end, or the other side, to the Chiefs, we have Sam Darnold, who, of course, has a ton of talent on this Chiefs roster. He's got a 99 and a 98, both to throw to. He's got an incredible right tackle in Mitchell Schwartz. I mean, he's got receivers. He's got Sammy Watkins. He's got an insane amount of talent on his team. So the real question is, how will these two quarterbacks do in totally different scenarios? Well, is Patty Mahomes, can he really turn any team around? And is Sam Darnold really as bad as everybody says he is? Let's let Madden decide. As we are going to go ahead and simulate through the preseason. We would like to go ahead and simulate through the preseason. We will sim week 1 and then see how they both did in their first games on their new teams. And then we will simulate the rest of the season to see how they did overall. The only thing that I did change about these two players is I just made their injury both 99, and I both gave them 7-year contracts, which is the largest you can give them in Madden. I both put them in their first year. That way we can get a nice real look at, how they would do for these teams in a long span. Can they turn them around? Because obviously this is not a 1-year deal. We'll be going through at least those 7 years in this video, and we maybe even go a little farther, as we'll have to figure out if they're going to re-sign or not, because obviously if they both sign the different teams, there's not a whole lot of point in continuing. As let's simulate past week 1 and see how both of our young quarterbacks did. So the Jets start off 0-1. Patrick Mahomes threw for 3 touchdowns and an interception, 328 yards, took 3 sacks. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's definitely not the best I've ever seen. As let's see how Sam Darnold did. 26 pass completions, 290 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he took 4 sacks. Did the Chiefs get the win is the real question. Did not get a win. Who did they get beat by? The Chiefs took a 12-point L to the Texans. All right, now we will head into about midway through the season and take another look. So if we look here, we can see that the Chiefs have taken an absolute nosedive and are now 1-7, and they just most recently lost to the Jets. As let's take a quick look at their schedule. They are struggling a little bit, to say the least. As we see, they lost to the Chargers, Ravens, Patriots. They beat the Raiders. They lose to the Bills, the Broncos, and the Jets. It's actually funny because I'm pretty sure that was the one game that the Chiefs actually did lose in reality. As we will look at the Jets now, they are 3-5 under Patty Mahomes. They lose to the Bills, Chargers, Cardinals, Colts, and the Bills again. They beat the 49ers, the Broncos, and of course the Chiefs. As I'm actually a little surprised that they beat the Chiefs. So let's take a look at their stats. We will not go this slow throughout the whole video. We will just go slow for this first season. Sam Darnold, 2,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. 61% completion percentage. He's thrown a 75-yard pass. He's gotten sacked 21 times in just 8 games. Going to the Jets, Patrick Mahomes with 19 touchdowns, 2,400 yards, only 5 interceptions, 65% completion percentage, 102 passer rating, 307 yards per game. He's taken 15 sacks, which isn't terrible, I guess. Not too shabby. It looked like they faked a field goal or something, and Joe Flacco threw a pass. All right, there's our update 8 weeks in. So we will go ahead and sim to the playoffs. Go ahead and make your predictions now. Will either one of these guys make the playoffs in their opening years? So taking a look at the playoff bracket, we see that neither one of our two teams have made the playoffs, nor the Jets or Chiefs. As we see that the Pats made it, the Broncos made it, the Jaguars made it. What in the world? Over on the other side, that's pretty much what it looked like. Pretty much what it looked like in reality. The AFC is looking all sorts of weird. As let's see, well, Le'Veon Bell got hurt at one point. That's a real damper. The Chiefs ended up finishing 6-10, so not too shabby from the Chiefs. How did the Jets finish? The Jets finished their first season 6-10. So both teams with the exact same record at 6-10. As let's see Sam Darnold's stats on the year. He was 34 yards off of throwing for 4,000, threw 24 touchdowns and 18 interceptions. Not too shabby. 60% completion percentage, took 39 sacks. That's quite a few sacks, I feel like. As let's look. I guess we could look at his rushing stats. I didn't even think about that. Sam Darnold rushed for 226 yards, 3 touchdowns, not too shabby. Averaged 14 yards a game, broke 4 tackles. Did he fumble at all? Nope, so Sam Darnold did not fumble a single time this year, from what I can gather. That's good for him. Let's go to Patty Mahomes. 4,500 yards, just 2 off of 4,600, so basically 4,600 yards. Had 34 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 63% completion percentage. Had a 96.5 passer rating, 23 sacks. That's much better than Sam Darnold. And let's see his rushing stats. He goes for 226 yards, which I think is like the exact same as Darnold. That's a little weird. He also did not fumble, which is pretty nice. Had an 11-yard run. Not too shabby. So that concludes Season 1. Now let's go ahead and sim to the Pro Bowl. So taking a look at the Pro Bowl rosters, we see that neither of our quarterbacks made it. Sam Darnold and Patty Mahomes both did not make it. As I don't even think. I wonder if anybody on these teams made it. It's not looking like it so far. Okay, so Tyrann Mathieu made it, but other than that, I don't see anybody on the Jets or Chiefs that made it. Wow. I mean, I figured the Chiefs having Kelsey and Hill, and I figured at least one of them would make it. I figured Mahomes would make it as well, but neither of them makes it. So we will head into the Super Bowl as it is Saints and Browns. Wow, isn't that something? Let's go ahead and view the yearly awards. Patty Mahomes comes in 6th in the MVP race. So Josh Allen wins his first league MVP, and Sean McDermott wins Coach of the Year. As neither of our two coaches were even in the top 10, is Griffin Murphy. Obviously, Offensive Player of the Year for the AFC was Josh Allen. Patty Mahomes comes in 3rd. Defensive Player of the Year is Myles Garrett. Offensive Rookie, Tua. Defensive Rookie, Patrick Queen. Best QB somehow doesn't go to Josh Allen, even though he won MVP. And Patty Mahomes finishes 5th in that. Lamar Jackson wins Best MVP. Derrick Henry, Best Running Back. And I'll just go ahead and scroll through the rest of these. As there were those. Okay. So now it is time to sim into the offseason and go ahead into our next season. So looking at who the teams signed, the Jets signed a cornerback. They signed Nikel Roby-Coleman. That is pretty much the only guy that they signed. As let's see who the Chiefs decided to sign. So the Chiefs did not pick up much of anybody, so we will go ahead and simulate the draft and see what positions both teams try to draft after. Obviously, if they draft a higher overall quarterback than Sam Darnold, we are going to still start Sam Darnold and let the other quarterback have a little rest. As the Chiefs actually elected not to take a quarterback, they take a right guard, a receiver, a free safety, a right tackle, a tight end, and a left tackle. Interesting. Highest one was a 4th-round guy at 72. As the Jets get a halfback, a left end, a cornerback, and a couple other positions that were all at pretty decent overalls. As it's no surprise they took that halfback because Frank Gore did retire. So we have simmed 8 weeks into Season 2, and the Chiefs are 0-7. That is not a great start for the Chiefs, obviously. As let's go ahead and look at the Jets. The Jets are actually leading their division at 5-3, a game ahead of a half game ahead of the Bills. So let's go ahead and look at how our boys are doing. Patty Mahomes, 2,400 yards, 8 games into the season, 19 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 15 sacks taken. That's not too great. Had a 93.7 passer rating. He has rushed for a whole 112 yards already, which I guess is pretty good. Still no fumbles for him. That's what's up. For the Chiefs, Sam Darnold has rushed for 94 yards. No touchdowns for him. There's no fumbles either. As passing, he has thrown for 1,500 yards. He has thrown 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 214 yards a game, 60% completion percentage, as they picked up RG3 as well. It's kind of funny. And we see that he has taken 14 sacks. So that's definitely improvement from year number 1, but still not great from our boy Sam. I didn't even think about checking this in the first season, but we can go through who won Player of the Week for the years. We see Patty Mahomes won in Week 5. So he had a pretty nice game, 484 yards, 5 touchdowns. He won it again in Week 11, 24 of 40, 304, 2 passing touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown. And he won it again in Week 15 as he had 4 passing touchdowns, an interception, 381 yards, and a rushing touchdown as Tyrone Matthew won it down there. As we see, Sam Darnold actually won it for Week 17. He went 22 of 31, 423 yards, 4 tutties, 1 interception, and 13 rushing yards. Let's see if either of them made the playoffs this year. The Jets, holy cow, won their division and get the 2 seed. How about them apples? Patty Mahomes has turned this team completely around. As let's see both of their stats on the year. The Chiefs finished 3-13, so even worse from last year, and the Jets, incredibly improved as they finished 11-5. What a year from the Jets. Sam Darnold finishes this season with 3,800 yards, 19 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 60% completion percentage, had an 88-yard pass, and took 40 sacks. Whoa. As we see that rushing-wise, Sam Darnold rushed for 183 yards and a touchdown. Still no fumbles. As let's go to Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes rushed for 236 yards again, I think, and he had 3 touchdowns on the ground. Through the year, he threw for 4,600 yards, 39 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 288 yards a game, 65% completion percentage, and only as long as pass was only 46 yards. That kind of surprises me. And he took 30 sacks, but it was enough to lead his team to an 11-5 record and a playoff berth. As let's see if they win their first round of the playoffs. So in their very first playoff game, and I think is 11 years counting the last season that we just simulated through, the Jets won 34-17. Patty Mahomes finished with no touchdowns, no interceptions, took a sack, and 255 yards, was 23 of 34. Not too shabby. He also rushed for 26 yards and a touchdown, but it got him the win. So the Jets are headed to the divisional round to play the Titans. So the Jets did end up dropping this game 35-14, got blown out by the Titans. As we see that Mahomes threw 246 yards, a touchdown and an interception, was 22 of 38, didn't take any sacks, 57% completion percentage, also rushed for 31 yards. Not too shabby, but they just couldn't get it done against the Titans, as we will go ahead and see if either of our two fellows made the Pro Bowl. Patrick Mahomes does end up making the Pro Bowl this year at QB2, as some quarterback named Tatum, who I'm assuming is a rookie, made it for the NFC along with Nick Foles. As you can definitely tell that this is a simulation. Baker Mayfield QB1 behind or in front of Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes did end up winning MVP a second time this year. As I'm assuming that Sam Darnold was not in the top 10. He was not. Will Bryant. Nice. So yeah, Patty Mahomes wins MVP. As Adam Gase got runner-up in the Coach of the Year award. Patrick Mahomes obviously wins Offensive Player of the Year and Best Quarterback. So those are all good things for Patty, as he had a breakout year and led the Jets to a playoff berth. So let's see what both teams do now in the offseason. So the Jets ended up signing quite a few players. I will just let you look at these real quick because we're going to try and speed this up a little bit. The Chiefs also signed quite a few good players as they signed Nick Chubb, Von Miller, Orlando Brown Jr., Kyle Fuller, all guys above 80s or 85s now. We see that Nick Chubb is now a 99, so Sam Darnold now has a 99 overall running back to go along with him in the backfield. The Chiefs end 8-8 after year 3. Not a terrible record. We're tied for second in their division, just a game behind the win. As I'm going to go ahead and assume that it was not good enough to get them into the playoffs. Let's check out the Jets and Patrick Mahomes. They finish 8-8 as well. So the Chiefs starting to come back a little bit, and the Jets starting to fall off. So let's see the playoff picture. Neither made it this year. So the Jets, after heading to the divisional round of the playoffs, don't make it in Mahomes' third year. Mahomes did win Player of the Week twice, and Darnold did once. As we will go ahead and advance to the Super Bowl, since we do not have anybody in the playoffs. Ryan Tannehill comes out with the MVP this year at only an 81 overall. That is interesting. And Joe Judge wins Coach of the Year, as neither of our two coaches were even in the top 10. Offensive Player of the Year, of course, goes to Ryan Tannehill, along with Best QB. So there go all the awards that our guys could have won. Looking at their stats for this year, Mahomes threw for 4,300 yards, 37 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, had a 96.6 passer rating, and took 26 sacks, rushed for 169 yards, and no touchdowns. Meanwhile, Sam Darnold ran for 116 and 2 touchdowns and threw for 3,800 yards, almost 3,900, 28 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Wow, so he threw less than half as many interceptions as Patrick Mahomes did, but he also took 47 sacks. Patty Mahomes was a Pro Bowler this year, but Sam Darnold was not yet again, as we will go ahead and sim into the 4th year of these 7-year contracts. So we have simulated yet another year, as this year we see that the Chiefs win their division 12-4 for the Chiefs. They had quite the year, as let's see if we can find the Jets. The Jets go 9-7, as it looks like they actually did not make the playoffs, even though they were the 14th best. They had the 14th best record in the league. So let's go ahead and check out the stats for our guys. Sam Darnold finished this year with 3,600 passing yards, 32 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, had a 74-yard bomb, and he got sacked 33 times. Rushing-wise, he had 147 yards and 1 touchdown. For the Jets, Mahomes rushes for 236 more yards, 5 touchdowns this year on the ground for Mahomes, as he threw for 5,000 yards, 44 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 108 passer rating, and only took 19 sacks. Jeez Louise, that is quite the season for Mahomes, and I still do not think that they made the playoffs even with him doing all of that. So if we take a look, we can see that they did not make the playoffs. The Chiefs get the 2 seed this year, as let's see how far that they can go. Well, they didn't make it very far because they got absolutely bodied by the Bengals 42-10 at Arrowhead. Holy cow. Joe Burrow throws for 4 touchdowns, as looks like he's come into his own here for the Bengals, as Darnold threw for 282 and an interception. His longest pass was only 25 yards, and he got sacked 3 times, as that was a short-lived playoff stint there for the Chiefs. If we take a look at the Pro Bowl roster, it is no surprise that Patrick Mahomes is the #1 QB for the AFC this year, as Lamar Jackson is up to a 99 along with Josh Jacobs and Nick Chubb. So if we look at the yearly awards, we can see that Patrick Mahomes won his 3rd MVP, as he's now won 2 in New York and 1 with Kansas City. As Coach of the Year goes this year to Matt Nagy, as Andy Reid got 3rd, and Adam Gase was nowhere to be seen. Patrick Mahomes obviously wins Offensive Player of the Year and Best QB, so he rakes in the yearly awards this year. The Packers ended up winning the most recent Super Bowl 16-14, as they beat the Bengals, actually. So that's a nice little win for the Chiefs, since they got eliminated by the team that went to the Super Bowl. Couldn't think of the word there for a second. So we are through another year, and the Jets have won their division. They win at 9-7. As we see that the Chiefs go 9-7 as well, and they do not win their division, but they do make the playoffs. As we will go ahead and check out their stats on the year. Patty Mahomes has another stellar season. Throws for 4,482 yards, 39 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 280 yards a game. Took 23 sacks. Also rushed for 268 and 2 touchdowns. As you see that Sam Darnold rushed for 120 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he threw for 3,500, 26 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 220 yards a game, and took 38 sacks. So poor Sam Darnold needs to get the ball out a little bit quicker. As I wonder if we will have our first playoff matchup between the two teams. We will not. The Jets play the Bengals, who just went to the Super Bowl, and the Chiefs play the Chargers, as hopefully they both win, and we can see them face off in the playoffs. So taking a look at the playoff bracket, the Chiefs did lose 25-20 to the Chargers, but the Jets did beat the Bengals 31-24, as we will take a quick look at the stats on those games for both of our quarterbacks. Darnold threw for 254, 2 touchdowns, an interception, and got sacked 3 times in his games. He also rushed for 19 yards. As Patty Mahomes threw for 375, 2 touchdowns, an interception, only got sacked once, and rushed for 15 yards. So let's see if Mahomes can make yet another Super Bowl push here on his career. So in their most recent game, the Jets did lose 14-27 to the Chargers, as the Chargers are being led by Justin Herbert, who is still with him, as Mahomes threw for 329 in this game, 2 touchdowns, another interception, only took 1 more sack, and finished with only 2 rushing yards, as that will end another Jets season. Neither of them made the Pro Bowl this year, as it was Rodgers, Jackson, and Stevens, as we have yet another Browns-Saints Super Bowl, which I'm kind of intrigued by, as Jordan Love wins league MVP. Now how does that happen? Aaron Rodgers is now a Titan, apparently. Patty Mahomes comes in 3rd place, as I'm very interested to see how Jordan Love ends up winning MVP. Coach of the Year, again, goes to Matt Nagy, as we didn't have anybody there in the top 7. Josh Allen wins Offensive Player of the Year with Patty Mahomes right behind him in the AFC. And Best Quarterback goes to Lamar Jackson, as Mahomes was down here all the way in 5th. So looking at the playoff bracket for this next year, we can see that the Chiefs made it into the 7 seed and the Jets did not make it. As let's see how both teams finished. The Chiefs finished 10-6, and the Jets were 8-8, which was not good enough to get them into the playoffs. As we go ahead and look at stats for our 2 quarterbacks. Sam Darnold threw for 3,400 yards this season, 23 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. At 218 per game, took 45 sacks, still taking a lot of sacks. Rushed for 186 yards and 2 touchdowns, which is pretty A-okay. It's more than what we're used to seeing out of him. Mahomes rushed for 240 with a touchdown. And he also threw for 4,300 yards, 38 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 100 on the dot, passer rating, 271 yards per game, and 33 sacks. As let's see if Aaron Donald can finally lead his team to a playoff win and get this huge upset at Houston. So Sam Darnold and the Chiefs pull off a miracle and beat the Texans 22-28 in the divisional round of the playoffs, as they were the 7 and they beat the 2 seed, as that's pretty typical of Deshaun Watson and his Texans. 257 yards for Darnold, 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So not his best game. Took 6 sacks as well. He rushed for 15 yards. So not his best game ever, but it did get them the playoff win, as we will see if they can beat the Browns and go to the conference championship. They couldn't quite make it past the Browns. They lose 31-7, as we see that Darnold threw for 212, a tutty and an interception, got sacked 4 times, and only rushed for 5 yards. So maybe next year for one of our 2 QBs. Neither of our quarterbacks had a Pro Bowl appearance in this year either, as I'm starting to wonder how Patty Mahomes has not made these Pro Bowls, since he is still a 99 overall. So this is the last year of their contracts, of their 7-year deals for both quarterbacks. So we'll have to see if either of them can make a deep playoff run or get any more yearly rewards. So neither of our 2 men made the playoffs in their last contract year. The Jets just 5-11, and the Chiefs 7-9. So obviously neither of those is good enough to get them to the playoffs. As let's check their stats. Mahomes threw for 4,400 yards, 39 more touchdowns, 16 interceptions, 278 average yards per game, and got sacked 28 times. He also rushed for 205 yards, no touchdowns. For the Chiefs, Sam Darnold rushed for 185 yards, no touchdowns for him on the year. 4,000 yards, he finally cracked that number. 28 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and took 37 sacks. I do believe he's up to a 80 overall, which is nice for him. No Pro Bowl appearances for either of our quarterbacks in their last years either, so we'll have to see if they got any of the yearly rewards. MVP this year goes to Cole Josephson, who I don't even know what position he plays, but completely honest with you, Matt Nagy wins yet another Coach of the Year as he is raking them in. As Baker Mayfield wins Offensive Player of the Year, as we see that Caleb Wagner, the quarterback for the Steelers, wins Best QB, as Mahomes gets second, and Darnold was not even in the top 10 yet again. So that will do it for this video on the Sam Darnold and Patrick Mahomes flip-flop as if they flip teams. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, and let me know if you want to see part 2. I will gladly do 7 more years. You can let me know if you want me to put them back on these teams or if you want me to just let them go into the free agent pool. And we can see how it goes. We can finish out the careers if you guys want to, but I'll just leave this here for now. Once again, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.